And we're trying to, allow people to earn money wisely. And so what we're trying to go after is the crypto curious, crypto nervous, people that are really uncomfortable with digital assets, the majority of people, right, that are still digitally native, but just don't understand the space at all. And, we always hear, I know this is a weird audience because we're in a hackathon for ETH, but most people just think that there's no risk and it's too difficult and that's a scam. And that's what our project is. We're trying to address that market and convert people that are nervous into believers. So how we're doing that is through financial advice for the new age. So most traditional financial advisors care about stocks and bonds and cash. But our application really brings together stable coins and volatile coins. And we're a robo-advisor for allocating across all of those asset classes. So bringing main coins and stable coins into investors' portfolios. So how we're going to do that is by taking people, we have a suggested allocation that we give to an investor. We have advisors on the other side that will invest that money for them into their own vehicles that they want. So there's a stable coin pool and a volatile coin pool for each individual advisor, and the investor can select which advisor they want to go with. So there's a lot of nuances behind the scenes, but the idea is we're making it really easy for people to get into DeFi. This is like the advisor is doing the work for the investor. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. Did that come through?
Yeah. So one question I had was like, which parts are you hoping to build? Are you building, is this going to be like a smart contract that's going to be allocating these investments and an interface and everything? Or is it just some parts or others, or kind of what's the plan?
Yeah. So
sorry. Was this not the end of the present?
A whole bunch
I didn't know if that was the presentation. Sorry.
No. It was. I think that's a good lead-in question though. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We are investing the investors' money into a contract. So there's some token economics behind the scenes. We're taking investors' money. The advisor has the ability to invest on behalf of that investor, and then token comes back to them. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but really we want the platform to start from the investor and go all the way through, which is an ambitious project for this hack, but we're going to see how far we can get.
It's so one innovation in the space in the last year has been, because gas is so expensive, when you're managing someone's money or you're managing assets, if you can do it, first of all, permissionlessly, which we can talk about here, but also if you can do it gas efficiently. So one thing that they've been able to do is sort of set up these strategies and implement these strategies on behalf of a whole bunch of people at once. And I think that's probably something that you'll want to kind of look into. These systems are very, very complicated, and you really roll up a lot of transactions to get into place to make these work. But I would say that this is almost more of a marketing project than it is an engineering project. If you wanted it to be an engineering project, there's some key things here, like your custodying, because you don't want to be custodial, right? You want to be non-custodial. You don't want to be in control of other people's money. Right. That's kind of what you're doing here. So maybe if you could do it in a contract where it's a little bit more trustless, where you're assigning some kind of strategy, and not like just for one person, but for a lot of people. If you could figure out a way to kind of group those together in a trustless way where you can kind of manage someone's money without actually being custodial, I think that's pretty key. But there's some subtleties there too.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of like a professional, like more complex, more powerful version of these like Wiren vaults where, with Yearn vaults they try not to do anything too crazy. It's like, oh, you like deposit like a stable coin, it's going to like farm and like buy more stable coins or something. But this is going to be kind of the similar style system, but doing more like active investment, which seems really cool. One just like little feature I thought of that might be cool is, because you're going to have these advisors that are going to be changing the strategies, And again, this might add like a bit of complexity, so like no worries. But like if there was like a time block kind of thing, so like basically the advisors are like, hey, like we want to switch strategies, and the owner, the people who own the money, like could have like 2 days to like opt out, like rage quit, and be like, oh, like you said you want to like put all your money into like yams or something worse,
right.
something that they don't like. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. So that was just a random idea, but yeah, it seems really cool. It seems like a very like kind of like professional idea. So I like it.
Awesome. Sweet.
Great.
It's good feedback. Yeah.
Sorry, I do need to cut you off just in the interest of time. But if you're still on the call a bit later and we've gone through all the projects, we can always touch back with some of the projects that went first. And David is in the Discord, so if there's any and Austin, so if there's any specific questions, you can also tag them in the channels. Cool. Next up, we have Project Caldeer with Drew Patel. Are you on the call with us?
Yep.
Great. Cool.
Okay, so the first, I'm going to lay out like status quo and like why we're trying to actually solve the problem. So right now in DeFi, if you want to insure your like deposits, you really only have one option, and it's Nexus Mutual. If you look into Nexus Mutual, like on the surface, it sounds great, but if you start looking into it and you take like, if you attended the first class of an econ class in college, you'd realize that the incentives never align, and that when the big hacking event happens, the thing's going to blow up, because the people that are underwriting the insurance, the LP pool providers, they are the ones who get to decide if a claim gets paid out or not, right? So you have misaligned interests. The LP pool providers want to maximize the amount of insurance they sell and minimize the number of claims they pay out. And then a purchaser wants to pay as little as they can for insurance, and have a guarantee that their claim be paid. And so this has led Nexus Mutual to only accept 3 out of 26 claim requests on their network. So what we're trying to do is create a completely trustless insurance protocol. So no chain link, none of that. The contract itself will decide if the underlying contract is insuring is hacked, and you can do it pretty easily by just having the user hand over the claim token to you, to the contract, and the contract then trying to withdraw the underlying asset from like wire. And so a user could get some wire and claim token, come to our platform and insure it, and get a ERC20 that represents insurance. And then if a hack occurs, they transfer their underlying token, they transfer their claim token and their insurance token. We burn the insurance token, and then we try to claim the claim token. If it doesn't work, then we pay out the insurance. So completely trustless insurance. And there's a few ways we can implement it. Like, we can either have them pay up front for insurance for X amount of time, or we can do it like an ETF, like Vanguard's ETFs. We stick a management fee on the yields they earn. And then on the other side, we have LP pool providers who are like betting against a contract getting hacked, and they have exposure to a ton of contracts. So if they have $1 and we can say, hey, here are 10 contracts, here are 10 smart DeFi platforms that your $1 can insure against. So we're saying that if one of these explodes, we can insure against that, and you have exposure to 10. Because else, why wouldn't the insurance provider, the person underwriting the insurance, just put their money in the DeFi pool? So that's how we make it worth for the LP providers. But yeah, that's the protocol.
I think this is a space that needs a lot of exploring right now, and it makes a lot of sense to be talking about how to build smart contracts to protect smart contracts. Like, it's an obvious place where we should be playing around for sure. I don't know a ton, to be honest, about it. Like, my understanding is you can go on Open and you can buy like an option on some token going below something. And if that token ever goes below something, you can take the below token and your option and put both of those in and get back some money at some below token rate. That's like, there we go. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, knowing whether or not the smart contract got hacked, and how, since the contract itself is deterministic and you could just basically go check it, you're pretty limited to what you can do with that. And an Oracle system does kind of open that up a lot, but again, more complexity means a lot more troubles. I would say my overall feedback is this is great, and it's a great place to be attacking and learning more and building around. My own personal knowledge is I don't know enough about like the high level economics to be able to like weigh in on whether or not it's going to work or not. But I think I'm 2 thumbs up in terms of this is something that should be built on Ethereum.
Yeah, to kind of add on that, I mean, it sounds great. I have a little bit of like just skepticism about like, is it possible, you know, because these hacks are typically so complicated, it can be difficult for a smart contract to determine whether another smart contract has been hacked and like what a hack looks like. Is it the ability to, you know, sometimes it's the ability to withdraw a token, but sometimes it might just be like the fact that like a token might just lose value or something. So I guess what I would just suggest, or if you, I don't know if this is necessary for the hackathon, but like if you were trying to like sell this to me, I would say just go through the list of like hacks that have happened, and there's plenty to work from, and just like kind of, if you could say like, hey, like all the major hacks that have happened, like we could have fixed it like with this, then I'd be sold.
That's a great idea. Like, look how this would have been triggered on chain. Like, here's the DAO hack. Here's it getting drained.
Here's like,
and if they would have bought options on this, here they would have been able to swap them or something like that. That's a great idea. Like using historical hacks. But totally, they're so complicated. Like, whether or not something gets hacked is such a like subjective thing, right? Like even flash loans when they first came out, like, all of us were just like, wow, that's a neat trick. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is really cool. And so like, you can't even imagine what sort of things can happen. I don't know. It's tricky, but 2 thumbs up on the direction. This is definitely a place where we should be innovating.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks so much, Drew. Moving on to the next project, Distributed Town with Alex. Are you on the call?
Hey guys, yes, I'm here. Sorry, I have some connectivity problems, so I will not switch on my camera, but I promise it will be more entertaining next time. So anyway, good evening to everyone. I'm the tech lead of Distributed Town, and in general, we're trying, let's say, on a high level to build a network of DAOs that lets people organize in self-sovereign communities, and is based on a mutual credit system of accounting. So instead of using, let's say, the DAO concept for speculative purposes or something like that, basically every person will select a set of skills at the registration when they want to join a new community. And instead of having a, let's say, validation pool for confirming these skills, whether this person has a skill or not, is a subtractive model. So for example, you can choose your experience in one specific skills, let's say gardening, between 1 and 10. If you declare you have 10, then before you're able to use the credit that you're assigned by default, you need to validate the skill by taking a gig in the community. And of course, if I assign you a gardening gig and you burn down all my plants, then probably you're not, a very skillful gardener. So your rate will go below, and the amount of credits, the ITO's credits that you have, will dynamically go below. The main, let's say, goal that we have for this hack is to, well, first of all, let's say, have a proof of concept with a few communities, and also to start building, let's say, the foundation for a skill wallet, so that basically it would be a universal login that you can use for mobility purposes, moving from a community to the other, following this, let's say, multilateral barter kind of approach. And instead of having a, let's say, universal login based on identities, sensitive data, and blah, blah. So we forget about passports, resumes, and these kind of things, but you log in basically to validate your skills. So based on the contribution that you give to the community and then later on to the network, you will be able to use your credit wherever in the world without having any bureaucratic limitation. So at high level is this. And by the way, we use, since we live in a kind of a hybrid world, where of course multilateral barter or any kind of mutual credit would take a lot of time to be sustainable. We use also DeFi protocols for letting the community members, like the members of one specific community, to pull in and create their own saving pools, let's say, with their own independent vault strategy. in a way that they can find, let's say, the possibility to sustain internal projects within the same community without waiting for governmental grants and this kind of stuff. So to keep it, let's say, hybrid between taking the best between one world and the other. And we don't leverage on the mutual credit that we have in the platform, because in order to receive your shares, let's say, your share of profit, you need to have the ITO mutual credits. And the more you have, so the more you contributed to the community, the more you are going to earn. So this is the very high level version. And if you have any question or feedback, that would be great.
This is a really, another really cool place within Ethereum, like another kind of branch of Ethereum that's a cool place to explore right now. Kind of coordination games and coordinating around it, going back to, I think Moloch was mentioned earlier, but trying to find coordination platforms that can work, and experimenting with coordination platforms is exciting. There's a ton going on here, though. I would say that, like, everything that you've laid out, take that vision and apply it to what's currently created, and what you're going to find, and a lot of people find this when they try to build something complex on Ethereum, is there's holes, there's blind spots, there's missing things where the tooling isn't there, or there's not something there. Take that grand vision and apply it, and find spots that are just totally not there. Like you'll find, like you said, we need a wallet to be able to move stuff around. I know some guys on this call that can give you a good forkable wallet, but the things like that, where you'll find holes in the current setup, in the current infrastructure, in the current tooling, find some small piece of this that might be like very high leverage for the future builders that are building this, but also maybe it's the guild as a whole. Like you have this kind of coordination setup where you have skills and gigs, whether those are virtual, you have a credit system. This is a perfect setup for a smart contract. It's just there's a lot going on there, and a lot of moving parts, and you kind of threw in DeFi there at the end. I would say just like, either find a simplified version of this for like a hackathon kind of build, or find something within here that's missing in terms of infrastructure and tooling in the space, and try to fill that gap first. But maybe the whole thing just works, and it is a good application of Ethereum. I'd like to hear what David thinks of this too.
Yes, kind of going down the same direction. What I was hoping is, like, it sounds like a very cool, and it sounds like you've like given a lot of thought to how the system is going to work. What I would love to like hear or like see when it comes to presenting is like one specific like use case this addresses, because like what you've described sounds like it could like cover a lot of different use cases, but I think it'd be maybe easier to build and also easier to present if you're like here is the problem that we can solve, and like here's a way, like you mentioned like gardening when you were going through it, and like that helped. I kind of like, it made sense, but I was like also like maybe something that's more like crypto native might be easier to like mentally kind of like fit in with other projects in the space. So if it's like, oh, it's like managing money or like a game or something like that, something that like we're already really used to in crypto, that might be kind of cool. But
I'm building something similar to this with developers and tasks, just trying to figure out how to coordinate around a couple different projects getting tasks done at the same time. So very similar, something where gigs would be more virtual. Maybe it's like a bounty system on something where someone can check in, complete a gig, and get paid in some kind of social credit, all virtually, kind of world is flat style.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. It's very good advice. And also, I mean, it makes sense because one of the main inspirations was the CPS, so collaborative problem solving. And the main idea basically is that you have the possibility, you were mentioning.
Alex,
Yes?
I'm really sorry, but I'm going to just have to cut you off because just in the interest of time, I'd like to give all the projects an opportunity to pitch their idea. But if you stay on the call and there's time at the end, we can revisit this conversation with the...
Sure. I will just reply later to David about the use case, and you guys can go on for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Cool. And thank you, Austin. Bye-bye.
Cool. Next up, Nifty Crates with Abhishek.
Hey everyone, can you guys hear me?
Great.
Yep.
Hey, so Nifty Crates is basically a new type of ERC 721 token, which can itself compose other ERC 721 tokens within it. And the idea for this is sort of the problem I sort of identified is a lot of people have, a lot of common NFTs that get generated from all sorts of games and breeding algorithms, and they get very few that are quite rare and valuable. And you want to liquidate, let's say, a set of NFTs for as much ETH as possible. And loot box mechanics are very popular in games, and so what I wanted to do was sort of boil that down to the purest idea of a loot box, and create one on Ethereum using smart contracts. So the first most obvious use case is geared towards NFT whales who have a lot of tokens and that want to turn their NFTs into a profitable loot box others can use. And the way it will work is you would buy a crate and then you would put some NFTs in it. And then you can set the ranking for each of the tokens inside of the crate. That will in turn determine the drawing odds, so how likely each one is to come out of the crate. And then you can configure sort of the price and pricing mechanics and sort of set it to whatever level you'd like. And then other people can come and open the crate and hopefully draw an item from the crate. And hopefully this will create sort of a fun, very quick and easy to understand user experience around NFTs that kind of gives people exposure to different games, also sort of replicates the really fun aspects of all the best NFT games like CryptoKitties. The fun part is, suddenly seeing something that is valuable and rare come into your ownership and kind of have that moment of joy on a simple and easy to understand game. So that's kind of the high level idea. We've gotten the smart contracts going a little bit, and what I wanted to kind of get from the audience here was an understanding of, what do you think is sort of the economy for this? Is it viable? And then perhaps, other projects you might have seen that kind of try to do the same thing, maybe some hurdles that they've hit. Just kind of wanted to get the pulse the audience around what they feel is happening in NFT games and if this is valuable.
It reminds me of Mokins. Remember Nick Mudge did Mokins, and they were like NFTs that owned NFTs, and it was a way to package them. I think it's similar to what you're talking about. I would check those out. So just like tokens, but with an M, Mokins. I think that's what it was. This is like similar to that. I think check some of the token standards too. I think that at this point, this is one of those things that probably someone is trying to standardize, and there's probably some different arguments about which one's the most gas efficient and stuff like that. David might know more about different tokens, but maybe like 1155 or something like that. I don't know a ton about this. It's definitely something that's I've seen a little bit. I think the twist I would add to this to make it more interesting would be the actual loot box mechanic, where you use ZK or some kind of commit reveal, some kind of incomplete information scheme, where basically loot box could be bought and sold and then kind of opened, and then like randomly you would get like you could take a bunch of things, put them in a whole bunch of loot boxes and sell them, and one of those could be worth way more than the other one, and it's about the random discovery of opening them up. That would be cool. That's where I would kind of lean on.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, you could definitely do that with that commit reveal, I think.
It's a two-phase commit reveal sort of scheme, and it's kind of similar to what other games sort of best practices here.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
The one, I think this may be adjacent. Like, I'm not as deep into the NFT side of the ecosystem, but one, I think, problem that I have heard kind of exists in NFTs is just like liquidity and valuation of NFTs, because obviously like ERC20s are very liquid. It's much easier to have price discovery. It's a bit more complicated with tokens that there only exists one of. I was wondering if just kind of throwing this out, like if there's any way that bundling these things at all makes that easier, because you can kind of get the value of a whole box as a package. That might not make any sense, but it's just kind of something I'm throwing out. But
I think that totally makes sense. So that was kind of the ranking. So when a person creates a new crate and they set it up, they set a ranking for each of the items inside of it. so that that gives an implicit sort of saying, hey, this is the rarest token in this crate, and these are all the other ones that are sort of like just really basic. So and that ranking will travel with that NFT everywhere. So it's kind of independent of the NFT itself. So yeah, hopefully that kind
of leaning into my ZK idea here and saying, how cool would it be if you could see on chain the outcomes? Like basically I took all of these things and I packaged them up into all of these things, and you can tell on chain, you can trust me that those things are packaged up, but you don't know where they are, and people can randomly grab them. Like definitely, like that's a ZK thing, and that's like perfect for it probably. But
you don't even need ZK. You can do that with commit reveal, right?
Yeah, I think you could do that with just commit reveal right now. And the way it works is you can see everything inside of the box, and you can see exactly what the odds are.
Yeah. I want, the odds to be visible, but not the actual items until it's opened.
Well, I don't know if that's possible unless
he's fit the odds.
But unless he's creating the items, I don't know if that's possible. Because if like he's taken some,
it'd be like Tornado, right? You would have off-chain slips that represented each of them.
Yeah, but even in Tornado, you can still see, like I can go look at how much DAI is in Tornado Cash.
Yeah.
Right. I would make 100 loot boxes and I'd fill them up. But the ownership to each one, like you would be buying a slip that would get you a random one of those, but you couldn't tell which one was yours until it happened. Something like that. We're taking up too much time. I'm sorry.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, like I said, if there's time at the end, we can revisit some of these projects again. Next up is Hoodie with Auth.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. So I was also working on a subscription protocol. Actually, I know we've already had one, but like, just hear me out. So yeah, what I was thinking is like create a central contract similar to a Uniswap model. Like each content provider can deploy his own subscription contract, giving all the parameters of how much amount the subscription should be, which tokens he wants to accept, and all that. And then basically the users can select their plan, and then they can approve multiple installments in one go, or as they wish. Basically they can do the approval part on their own. But now what we do is we let anyone call the transfer function. So then anyone in the Ethereum can call that and get a part of the fees for himself, and we just batch this part. So then we can kind of do the subscription that way. And on the distribution, on the receiving side, I was thinking maybe just a basic one can be there. Like I just send it to some user, some content provider, or there can also be complicated models. Like if there is a blog who has multiple writers and you want to stream money to all of the writers, we can maybe do that. So I'm still exploring stuff over there, but like that is the basic idea. I'm mostly because of all the community tokens and the social tokens and personal tokens. So I was thinking these can be used somewhere. They can either be used on the distribution side or on the payment side. So somehow doing it for them basically. Yeah. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it sounds good. I think the part that I was interested about was the part where you said that something was aggregated and could be posted as one. Can you just go over that one more time?
Yeah. So what we can do is basically just take a small payment in the first go. Like the next, whenever the next batch starts, like a monthly batch or a yearly batch, you can select whichever you want to be a part of. And then yearly, like on the first of each month, maybe we can have any random person call the transfer function, and the subscription basically gets executed at that time. All the subscribers, he will transfer the funds for all the subscribers in one go, like as much as possible, as much as the gas fees would allow basically. But for doing this, he can get some part of the fees. So then he is also incentivized to do this, and basically anyone can do it after this. Maybe the content provider himself does it. Maybe some random person does it.
One kind of idea that I thought of while you were kind of going over that the first time was like, there's definitely, I think there's an opportunity for these like subscription and payment stuff to work with like meta transactions, so that the user doesn't have to send a transaction. Austin's saying about that. I am too. But yeah, so the user wouldn't have to like pay gas to actually subscribe to something. So that could be cool. Like I was just thinking, like if you use like DAI, which has the permit function in it, the user could just like sign a message and send it out, and then yeah, like a relayer could kind of process that and take something from there. So
that might not be possible with all tokens. Like you said, DAI has a permit function, but like USDC, I don't think it has. Like some other coin, maybe all the personal tokens do. Huh?
USDC actually just added it because theirs is upgradable. They
Oh.
added yeah, side note, but check out USDC 2.0. It's got like all these meta transaction things. But
did they do
you're
777 stuff, by the way?
They don't do 777. They just do
just meta. That's cool.
They could though. Well, actually, they have. Yeah. Well, this is
another discussion over beers.
But
so,
but
yeah,
as you
I linked up. No, you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, like it only you couldn't do any arbitrary token with meta transactions, just like the few that support it.
I linked up a meta transaction contract that we came up with. It was basically using the nonce as a timestamp for replay protection. So you have them sign a meta transaction that says, I will allow you to, or allow a relayer, even a third party, to send these on my behalf within some kind of timestamped range, and it becomes valid. A relayer or someone pays the gas, moves the tokens, and then it's invalid again until that period elapses. And I posted that into chat, but I think there's definitely it seems like there should be more stuff going on around subscriptions. It seems like we should already have like a Patreon that's just great. And we sort of have some, clones and ideas about this, but I think it's the coordination mechanisms around the streams that are going to be kind of the interesting part to bring things together.
Also, guys, sorry to kick in, but for ARF, there is also a standard that Gitcoin proposed a couple of years ago for subscription models. So maybe I can look it up and share it with you later.
That's the LEET standard. I linked it. So I linked to my contract that kind of became the thing that seeded the LEET standard.
LEET
eventually.
1337.
Yep. 1337.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't speak LEET.
All right.
Great.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks so much, Arth. I'm going to move on to the next project, which is Lucidity with Andrew Hong, if you're on the call.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, let me put away my other work. Yeah, so, oh boy, I guess so starting at a high level, what we're trying to do is increase transparency with government and like public projects. So like anything with infrastructure or community investments. And the way we want to do this is mainly by leveraging open law, Aave credit delegation, and then a sort of escrow account, which I've decided to go with the Gnosis conditional token just as a starting point. So essentially all it is the project proposer and a bidder who wants to manage the project have to agree on an open law contract. And as soon as that's agreed upon, we'll have external auditors just kind of check and make sure like that this is sound. Just so there's limited fraud, because the whole point is just we want limited fraud. And so once that has all been signed, we can have pagination kind of on that signed contract for any funders who want to fund the project. So then it's connected to the same open law contract, but then anyone who provides funding provides it through Aave's credit delegation, which is tied to that original contract of like the bidder and the project owner. Stop me if I lost you, because I'm not great at explaining this without using a diagram. But yeah, so that's essentially kind of how it's going to be managed. So then the credit, the conditional token vault will have all of the DAI funding or USDC funding, whatever we decide to go with from Aave. And I forgot an important point. In that original open law contract between the bidder and the project owner, there are going to be set milestones. So like 5 or 6 milestones for seeing how far like the project has come along. If it's like building a new school, it's like, has the foundation been laid? Have all the materials been sourced? Has parts of the building been audited, right? And so with every milestone that's met, then the auditors can check off that condition on the conditional token and release that DAI to the borrower. That's essentially the full structure. We have some NGOs in the Honduras and wider Latin America that we're going to try to work with to kind of pilot the project. That's probably after the hackathon. For the hackathon, we're just using a historical infrastructure project to kind of just show like how this would run through.
Cool. I don't even know if
that's where we're at.
I don't even know if I have much feedback. This just sounds, I've been like waiting. Like I was like when Aave launched the, you know, this like delegated credit line law thing. So, and I haven't like heard anything. I don't, has that even launched yet, or have they just announced it?
It launched. It's part of like the bounties for this hackathon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just like excited to see, like I was excited when they launched it, and I haven't heard anything actually using it. So, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, because their credit delegation actually ties into open law. Like it forces you to use open law. So I'm like, okay. I think my main concern right now is I don't know how to handle the auditors. I guess like I was originally thinking about, do I need to create a DAO where you have certain roles and you're either a funder or an auditor or a project owner, and kind of use that to manage things.
The auditor as in like the person who's determining whether the step has been reached?
Yeah, so like I guess we can call it an oracle because it's just going to be an address that gets signed. But since that's the main centralized component, we're still kind of trying to think through like, do we need a DAO? Because if we have a DAO, then like the transaction costs get a lot more expensive, and we don't really want to deal with that. And like if we have to move chains in the future, then we have to worry about if the DAO can move chains. And
maybe this is just my like impression of this open law thing, but I mean, I feel like this credit delegation, it's already like kind of somewhat centralized to begin. Like obviously it's using Aave, it's using decentralized protocol, but it is like there's like a legal agreement of one entity delegating credit to another. So I think you don't necessarily need a DAO because you're already doing this like kind of hybrid system. So I think it's fair to just have like an entity that's gonna like approve those things. It could be the same as the funder, it could be someone separate. I mean, like if you have extra time and you like want to throw a DAO at it, like go nuts. But
start with minimum viable decentralization. Exactly.
Yeah, we started. Sorry, go on.
Credibility, supply chain. You've got the delegated funds now. It seems like the composability is all kind of lining up to make this work. It's all about that pilot and getting it to work, right? Obviously putting together the tech, getting a little bit of funding, but then putting it in people's, this is another great place to be experimenting. You may be years ahead of actual implementation and it working in the real world. Maybe not, maybe you're right. But keep experimenting, keep building.
I'm really excited for the use case. I think right now, besides the auditor part, it's like trying to figure out the intricacies of open law has also been taking up most of my time. Cool.
But you be the auditor at first, understanding that you can abstract that to some other governance later. Don't let that block you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like not sure. I'm like, how much do people criticize these things? I have no idea.
Well, they will, but don't listen to the trolls. Keep building.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, that's all I had. I was just fingers crossed that there's nothing blaring wrong or missing.
No, so. It sounds cool. I'm stoked on it. If we're wrapping this one up, I'm saying I have to bounce, but looks like Peter Pan's hopping in to take my place. So.
Downgrading.
I was going to say upgrading, but all right. Take care, everyone.
David, cheers.
Later.
Next up, we've got Rishi and his team with Project Supply Chain Hub. I see you are in the room, Rishi. Just give Rishi a minute to unmute. Can everyone else hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, well, while we wait for Rishi, there's also another project here, DeFi Poly. I'm not sure if Ludo's in the call yet, though he might still be moving over from the other room. If not, let's see. Is there anyone else here that wants to chat a little bit more about their project while we wait for the other two project people to join?
I'm happy to continue.
I know you are, Alex. Cool. Yeah, let's chat, but I might need to. Oh, Rishi's here. Sorry, Alex.
So
That's all right. Go ahead.
I'm just waiting for my team to join. Team to be shifted to this room. So then I'll continue. Will that be all right?
Okay. Well, Alex, you can chat, and well, actually, Ludo's in the call, so I'm going to give Ludo the opportunity to present his project, DeFi Pearly, and then we'll get to Rishi.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, good. Just trying to put that. I don't know if you see my background. Yeah. Now, yes.
Yep.
just a picture, so I don't have any webcam. So, hello everyone. So, DeFi Poly is a board game. It's inspired by Monopoly, and Monopoly is now more than 100 years old. It has learned everyone about the traditional banking mechanisms, about the capitalism, how to invest, how to borrow money, and I think it has educated a lot of people about that. And I would like to reinvent the game to adapt the concept and the financial mechanism to what is the DeFi today. I would like this game to educate people about blockchain, the decentralized applications, and DeFi mechanism. So in that game, the players will have the ability to stake money, to borrow, to raise funds by issuing tokens like an ICO, and there will be an integrated marketplace to exchange the assets during the game. And I would like this game being full decentralized, so everything will be performed by the smart contracts. Of course, there will be an in-game currency with a classical ERC20 token, but everything in the game would be performed by smart contract, every rules and every financial mechanism. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get it fully decentralized, and it's also a challenge because I would like this game to be addressed to people that don't know the blockchain ecosystem yet. So I would like the user experience being easy, so people don't have an Ethereum account yet. And so they would need, I would need some gasless transactions using relays. I would also deploy this game onto the layer 2 because I think it's a good option for this kind of game. Layer 2 offers quicker transactions and cheaper transactions. So for this kind of game, it's perfect. So I would like to deploy on layer 2 this game. And yeah, that's it. That's what I plan to do.
So one question is, traditionally in Monopoly, you have play money. Are you thinking of like creating just like tokens out of thin air, fullless game, and then using different DeFi primitives as the different events, like, and little like boxes? How would you imagine like the gameplay being like?
Sorry, you mean the design, or?
Yeah, how do you play the game? Yeah, it's like
how do you play the game?
Normally in Monopoly money, you try to get more Monopoly money, and you try to bankrupt everyone else, right? That's kind of the goal. It's like what, so in the crypto version of this is like, you don't have Monopoly money, you just have tokens, right? Do you imagine having tokens as like in-game money, etc.?
Yes, at the point the money in the game is a fake money, like in Monopoly. So it's a token created for the game session. For all players, the same session, there will be ERC20 contract instance. And so let's imagine in a classical Monopoly, people have to buy property and build houses and hotel on the property. In the game, it will be a bit different. So people are founding crypto startups, and they have to invest in the startup to make the project price, to increase the project price and get more revenues from their project. So to invest in the startup, they have to raise funds, and so on. That's the idea.
It's kind of like it's more of a gimmick than anything, right? Like you do DeFi as the gimmick of the game. The game runs on blockchain, but really you'll probably want to have it on a side chain. It's more for like exploring blockchain dev than it is and education, right? Educating people on, like, you could land on the sushi swap square, or you could land on the rug pull square, and really it's just fake money that's getting moved around, and it's just for fun and people playing around and educational purposes. But yeah, I think it's a fun place to
get out of impermanent loss card.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, impermanent loss is in the corner. You've supplied liquidity tokens to shitcoin. Yeah, so there's a lot of like fun gimmicky things you can do here, and I think that's what I would lean into. But yeah, you can do meta transactions, you can do gasless stuff, you could do it on a side chain. It makes it more and more complicated. I would simplify it as much as you can, but still, like, it's just for the gimmick. Lean into the gimmick, play around with that, and I think that makes for a fun hackathon game, which I've made many. I am a build a game out of it and put it on blockchain for the sole purpose of doing that for fun. So I can support it.
Thank you, Austin. Yeah, you're right. It's to educate people. And also to educate myself. I will learn a lot of things technically, but I would like to educate people. I really would like to play this game with my friends and my family. Once it will be done.
I could see a really literal take of this game on chain, but like, you have you have like, say, 12-hour rounds or 24-hour rounds, and everyone rolls a dice and they go around this square, and they can buy a property that spawns on each square. Like if you're on the square, you can only buy like the property, which is an NFT, with tokens, right? From the square, and then like you could take a very literal stance from it all, and that could be a really interesting like multiplayer kind of experience, but that's generally potentially really hard to like execute, right? But so like kind of just leaning into the meme could be just funner, right, as well, than like being literal Monopoly, like on chain. But
yeah, if I can lean in for a second as well for Ludo, by the way, nice nickname. I like what Peter Pan was saying, because basically, I mean, you can just mine NFTs on the game itself, and you can use them as collaterals as well. So if you really want to play the DeFi stuff, then you can actually do it without people even realizing that they're interacting with a blockchain. And they mine NFTs just by playing and conquering the squares.
Thanks so much, Ludo. I'm gonna need to
Thank you.
Cut you off there just to give the last two projects an opportunity before time runs out. But next up is Supply Chain Hub with Rishi and the team. And yeah, you guys can kick it off.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Rishi. So our project is basically, as it's named, Supply Chain Hub. So somewhere it's basically a platform where any non-technical person or a technical person can come and make a supply chain. So basically, from the start, one of the uses of blockchain have been supply chain or keeping track of goods. So what we propose is a system where any non-technical person can come and create a supply chain for his product or his company. So basically, we are trying to implement the generation of smart contracts through Python code, and the user attributes or customized attributes that will be taken from the user. So we are working on that.
Interesting.
Anything
Kind of
you
like
need
generalizing supply chain, sort of like coming up with here's the MVP of the metadata you need for a supply chain. We're going to generalize it. Here's a package where you can clone it. So it seems like oracles would be really important there. How do you verify information along the way on the supply chain?
Basically, verifying the information, we'll be tracking. It's basically for tracking products as we have thought. So the manufacturer or the one who will create the product will give it a unique ID, or one of the products will be tracked to a lot, and in that way the QR code of the product can be scanned individually or in the lot, which will be tracked along the way. And if the customer wishes to see from where the origin of the product was, and he can just scan it. So basically we came to this use case right now in COVID-19 in India, also in India, from where I'm from. There have been lots of cases of pharmaceuticals creating duplicates, or the masks, N95 masks, which are being used, have been duplicated. So if a customer wants to track his or her mask or the pharmaceutical or the medicines to their origin, so that was the basic use case. So a supply chain can be created for any non-technical person who is creating legitimate masks. He can customer can track his order to that manufacturer.
I think this is one of those, I talked about this earlier about really big blockchain projects right now. When you have a very ambitious project, when you dig into it and you start picking out all the different pieces, you find that in our industry, it's so new that there's a lot of missing pieces and blind spots. I would say just dig into it and find out, and you may find like that exact thing, where what we need is a simple Oracle system that runs on phones that's backed by some token. So anybody in the warehouse scans that thing and it, goes in and marks it on chain or something like that. There's probably just like a ton of things that if you tried to build this system, you would find are missing and you need to fill in, and maybe attack one of those smaller pieces as a hackathon project, leading up to kind of a combo move where you can actually build the whole project. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I second that. It's great framing, actually. I would probably not overthink it too much and just try to start building and see where you start. And, you're likely, it's unlikely you'll solve the whole problem, but you'll end up likely at least building one, or at least kind of ideating around and, outlining what is one of the building blocks, right?
And another just piece of tangent generic hackathon advice that goes out to everyone: you build and throw away many, many times before you find the winner. And it's just part of the process. Like, not that this is anywhere like a bad idea. This, like, supply chain is a perfectly great place to be innovating for Ethereum. Just saying, as a hackathon developer, don't be too married to a specific idea. Ideate and iterate and get it into people's hands and see how they use it, and build within the space and see where those blind spots are, and fill those in with good builds.
I also want to discuss one of the issues we are facing currently. So we are trying to create an app using for Android, or for any app using Flutter or Android. So basically, there are no libraries. The Web3j is a static library, or you need to produce static code for that. We wanted something that can connect to the blockchain or the supply chain using the API of the contract, or something similar that can create a dynamic system for that. Such a thing is available for native, like React Native, or some web platforms, but the Web3 library hasn't yet been upgraded for Android. So any suggestions on that part?
That someone in the chat just said it. You just found one of the holes in the ecosystem that needs to be patched, right? That's how it works. You'll find something that's totally missing, and that alone could be a hackathon project. I think if I were to give you some advice, go look at so Alejandro with the Open Money Initiative. he and I kind of branched when we were building the burner wallet, and I built the web version and he built an Android version. I think the guy building it, actually, you may know, Peter, his name's Mihal, the guy who did the link drop stuff.
Yeah.
What's his last
familiar
name?
with him. Yeah. So Alejandro, right? Match. Yeah. Like, not sure of his last name, but yeah, back in the day, nearly a year and a half ago.
But Mihal, I think, did build like an Android version that did some smart contract like link drop stuff. I would look into that stuff from those guys, and hit me up in chat if you want a link. But they may have something that works. Again, though, that sounds like a hole that we could be filled in. We're probably using up too much time too. We probably better jump to the next.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. And also, Rishi, you can like reach out in the chat channels. Everyone is there, so you can maybe ping the hack support channel, and yeah, we can help you async. Next up, we have Optimistic Roll-ins with Michael, and then Eldorado.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I decided instead of making an app to actually build a kind of a protocol here. So optimistic roll-ins effectively are layer agnostic roll-ins. So instead of rolling up to a chain from another layer, you roll into the same chain you're already in. So for example, let's just say you're able to reduce your entire state as a user to one Merkle root. You can then optimistically tell the network what would happen if you called this function, and then your state roots just build, and then anybody can prove fraud in anything you've done before. So where this is useful is, let's say, single player games. Most of the time, multiplayer games, right? You use layer 2 rollups, but for single player games, if hitting the chain is very expensive. Instead of hitting the chain for every single thing you do, you can just say, here's what I want to do. Here's what would have happened. Make my state that right now, and then anybody can go ahead and prove that any of my transitions were wrong after the fact. So there is no layer 2. You're just effectively optimistically updating your state. Where it's also effective is if you don't have a single state for every single user. Let's just say it's more about multiplayer than it is about single player state updates. You can save a lot of the gas that would normally go ahead with that. Let's just say, for example, it's a zero knowledge proof. So ZKP's 99% of the gas for a zero knowledge proof transaction are verifying the zero knowledge proof. So what you could do is say, I'm not even going to make the chain verify the proof. Trust me that this zero knowledge proof is valid and that my state would update here. And then anybody can go ahead and prove that, no, if I actually did call the function to validate your proof, it would have failed, and therefore I'm going to challenge you. So yeah, it's just effectively layer agnostic roll-ins. And I have a working protocol.
ZK there. It was ZK.
It's not ZK. It's not zero knowledge whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, it's using. So I built a Merkle proof library that does appendable dynamic Merkle trees. So you could effectively append. It's like Merkle mountain ranges, but it's a little different in that there's no bagging the peaks. But it's neither here nor there. The idea here is that there is no zero knowledge proof in this. It's effectively just Merkle trees. Where your state transitions are just larger and larger and larger Merkle trees, and then you can go ahead and prune or exit the optimism part of that if you wait enough blocks or enough time.
So I have to admit that I know this much out of the mountain of optimistic knowledge there is. So I don't know a ton about this. I think that it sounds more something like you should be posting this in ETH research and getting feedback from the guys at the top, right?
I realize it's a little more too much, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Once you're doing that, keep building, get some feedback from the big guys. I'm a lowly fish compared to.
I mean, like, what can you build? Essentially, you do. It's essentially like, it's a cheap way to verify a bunch of like on-chain like interactions without actually the transactions being on-chain, right? And then you settle it and you proof verify it, right?
The transactions will be on-chain in this case. They're all going to be on-chain. Sorry, the data that you would have passed would have been on-chain. It's just that the function you called doesn't actually call the underlying pure function. So anybody can see this transaction and say, these are the events that were launched. This is the call data, but the actual logic was never executed.
I see.
Yeah. So I have a working demo. Like this works right now. I have it running.
So what are you going to use it for?
So
what can you
I
use
was
it for?
yeah, I was listening to so I have a game that I'm building on the side. This is why I built this, because I figured if I might have well build something for the hackathon. But there was this game that I heard somebody in the first day mention that they were building. Was it Dark Forest or something? So Dark Forest uses zero knowledge proofs, and so like again, 99% of their gas costs are probably the zero knowledge proof itself. And they said because of the gas costs and because of the chain being slow, 12 seconds slow, right? They built the game in a way that a player has to do an update every couple of minutes, because if they were to play and update the state every single time, it would be too expensive. Well, in this case, the player can actually play offline, right? Do thousands of state transitions, and then just say, by the way, I came out of the subway, here's everything I've done. Just trust me that this is the final state. Or trust me that all of these state transitions produce all of these states, and just append them to my Merkle trees. And then anybody can say, well, that's either correct or not correct after the fact. So it's really useful for single player games. And so if no one else uses this, I'll use it for my game that I'm building, but that's what I would use it for. And the way it's built, you can actually use it on optimism itself. So you can build a smart contract that does an optimistic roll in on an optimistic roll up.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, this is above my head enough that you should be talking, like, don't stay in the weeds on this one. Come up for air and talk to people, and make sure you're communicating with people in the space about it.
What I want to get ideas here is, what can I use it for? Or what do you, because I don't know enough about the DeFi space or enough about the game space to know where there are current problems or where there's a lot of gas usage where I can apply this. I mean, I could do that research myself, but I guess that's what I'm here for.
I do agree that you will want to build a great example in showing people how to use it.
Exactly.
But I think this is at the point right now where it's like, this is like, you need to do all the game theory and figure out, make sure that it's going to work and it's solid, and go to guys like Vitalik and have him tell you why it doesn't work. And you'll have to find out, right? And you need to know that. You need that feedback. So that's what I would say, is go get that feedback from guys a lot smarter than me.
I posted the links for anyone who wants to take a look. But if you have any ideas on how I can show it off as an example.
Do you have a link to your game?
That I'm building under stealth, so I don't have a link to the game.
Sure.
But I'll just tell you what it is ahead of time. It's a complete entire clone, head to toe, of the latest generation of Pokemon. Every single thing, all the code whatsoever. But there's no IP, because obviously it's just data, right? So you bring your own front end. You want to skin it like Pokemon, you feel free. But all the code is exactly the same. So because there's a single player component and a multiplayer component, you can use the optimism to do the single player stuff. Like say, hey, I did all of this for hours, and then here's my new state. But then when I want to exit the optimism layer, because I want to fight against this guy, and therefore we have to do an on-chain battle or a state channel. But that's neither here nor there either. But yeah. But yeah, those links too are I don't know why I posted it twice. But yeah, those are the Merkle Tree library and the example of the optimistic roll-in. I'm going to try to build a battleship game. So like, imagine setting up your pieces would have been individual moves, which is kind of wasteful. And then say, okay, well, let's prove that your state of your battleship arena is correct before you start playing. Just a little game, it doesn't really show it off that well because it's wasteful on purpose.
The Dark Forest guys actually mentioned Battleship as a good example of a build. So maybe that is a good, like very simple too, right? There's not a lot to Battleship.
Well, I'd like to reach out to them. I just don't know how to do it because all they have is their Telegram, and it was not that easy.
I can connect you. Hit me up.
Feel free. Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you.
I just posted those links because you sent them to me in a private message.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Sorry.
No, it was not a problem. So I just shared them with everyone there.
Thank you.
The next project is El Dorado Savings Account with Juan and team. If you want to unmute and finish off the session.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Yeah, because I was running out of battery. So now we're building this project in which we are offering fully simple wallets for users for peer-to-peer payments, and we also have an exchange in there. We are focusing on development markets, South America, some areas in Africa as well. And on this event, we had the idea of also introducing savings accounts for people who wants to maybe have some money that they won't use for this week, for the month. Yeah, savings, classic, nothing weird. Yeah? And we are evaluating what options do we have. to introduce this and play with a couple of protocols, see what option we can give to the user. But we don't show off the crypto jargon in the UI much. We want to keep it simple. We focus a lot on stablecoins. So yeah, we have a non-ramp thing already working with Circle. We just need to get the business deals, because there are a lot of sanctions and restrictions in different countries that we want to work on. So that's been difficult. We have already a company settled on in Estonia. We are working on getting our licensing and everything together. So that's cool. And yeah,
this seems to go back to the Open Money Initiative again. We were just talking about the Open Money Initiative and Alejandro.
Yeah, perfect example.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that I think decentralization is necessary in emerging markets, and that's where we have to go. And you have to make the UX really good. You mentioned it there. You alluded to we're sticking to stable coins. We're sticking to a simple mental model of this is a savings account. And if you can translate that, make your UI very simple, make it even a browser wallet. I'm pro browser wallets. Make it very, very simple. So what you get in the long run is something that makes sense to them as this is a stable, that like it's not going to fluctuate with the local currency. I can put money in and earn a small interest on it. I think the very simple model, the very simple mental model of this is a savings account. And then my piece of advice there. So first of all, validation, that's a good idea. My piece of advice is getting it in people's hands. Go to the local, like I went to bars and I handed out paper wallets that people could scan and use that money. Get it in people's hands and you'll get tons of great feedback on
how do we do that during COVID?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a difficult part. Yeah,
I was going to say, maybe just do a meetup, but those are kind of illegal some places right now.
Yeah, so we want to offer two different solutions for different kind of people. We can offer a custodian solution and a bring your own wallet solution for licensing issues and depending on the market, because some providers, if you want to go on ramp with some providers, we cannot offer certain things, so we have to close sometimes, and it's difficult, and the regulation is also getting a bit too complex as well. So we want to have, initially we're going to go with our custodian way first, see how it works with like typical mom, grandma who doesn't know anything about MetaMask and anything, and just come here, we open your account and it works, and you put money there, and maybe you don't have access to dollars, but now you do because you have USD, right? And you can have your savings account, and also one of the biggest thing we want to offer is peer-to-peer payment, with NFC or maybe QR code things. And in the middle of next year, we want to introduce bring your own wallet. So if you don't trust our provider or whatever, you can just bring your own thing. You already have a wallet with your everything together, maybe a hardware one, and you just want to use our UI and all their connections to the savings protocol that we have already set up for you. Because we want to make it very easy. You don't have to be the guru of financial, academia or anything. Just give me. Our offering is like, I live in the Netherlands now, and the best thing I can get here is 0.25% interest rate, to a maximum as well. So it's a bit stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever. So
I think the potential, the trick of often, bringing people into the current DeFi interest rates as well is just unramping. So, that's like this project in Korea called Terra blockchain that they mentioned actually onboard a ton of people because they mentioned like the founder was like this e-commerce, he had an e-commerce background, had distribution channels, the Terra, like the Korean financial system, very liberal and forward thinking. So on ramping was no problem, right? On and off ramping. So I think that's one component. And if you were to solve this on a broader scale, and then distribution and I think Netherlands potentially might be interesting, like kind of test ground, because it's like, yeah, I'm not sure about the, you know, what things look like there on the ground, but I think that's something to be kind of cognizant of.
Here is very cashless, so everything goes with the phone, not even cards, you know, people pay with the phone all the time. So they kind of a thing that are very used to it. And most of the markets we want to tackle, like Latin American dollarization, you know, so like Argentina and Venezuela and things like that, you know. So those are markets that it's vital for something like this to emerge, you know. But then we get problems on the on-ramp, as you said, because there are sanctions against Venezuela. There are probably going to be issues with Argentina. You cannot have dollars, you know, so any currency to that matter. So yeah, we need to tackle that in a way that we offer a legal service, you know, that we're not like in the shadows or anything. But to do that and be to have the on-ramp, a proper on-ramp, and be legal, it chops you off a bunch of places, you know, the places that you want to help with. And that's the biggest hurdle that we have now.
And trying to custody someone else's, be custodial is going to get you in even more trouble. You probably want to find a non-custodial solution, and you may need to learn some UX tricks. You may have to do things on a side chain where it's okay to deploy a smart contract wallet on behalf of them, and then have multiple signers for recovery.
Yeah, but that works fine for us.
Version of Argent. Yeah,
that works perfectly for us, you know. But if I want to give it to my mom, I wouldn't trust her with that, you know, because if she loses that, it's like, you know, there's no way.
You've got to find a way. That's the trick.
Yeah,
like,
that's the trick. Yeah, but that's why we are working on that actually currently. But until we don't get that 100% perfect, I mean, people can lose funds, you know, that's no joke. So until we get that 100% recoverable without us, which is kind of tricky, that's a big thing, you know. I think it's the biggest thing for blockchain until we find that solution. We probably won't get that. It's going to be someone bigger than us. Until then, we will have this dual solution, one for like regular people, and then one for like more tech savvy who wants to like, I don't trust your provider, I'll bring my own thing, my hardware wallet or whatever, and just hook up to our ecosystem. Because we have like peer-to-peer payments when you use like handle instead of addresses and things like that. So they just bring like more goodies into this ecosystem that we just want to build now. More than one savings solution. That's the goal for this event for us.
Yeah. Cool. We'll keep hacking. Yep. My one advice is just you know, put it in people's hands, and also don't be custodial. Yeah. I would look at smart contract wallets and signers. All right. Yes. I think we're good. Emily?
Yeah, we've come to the end of the session. Thanks so much, Austin and Peter. You've been great, and thanks so much everybody for joining. If you do want to connect with them in the Discord, they are there. Ping them, obviously within reason. But yeah, feel free to reach out in the hack support channels, and there Austin's just dropped his Twitter. Cool, guys. You can leave this room. I'm not sure what's happening in the main room. So there's like a button at the bottom that says leave room, and I think that takes you to the other part of the Zoom call. So you can try doing that. But yeah, thanks so much.
Y'all, see ya.
Bye.